Well, it finally happened. I know the movie is probably like almost 3 weeks old at this point, but I finally got to see Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It's been rough. I've had a lot of work. I've had a lot of keeping up to do, but when the time comes, you gotta go fast. You know what I'm saying? So, I set up everything in the background here. We got the Sonic comics from the old Archie age. We've got the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 official prequel comic. It's happening here, folks. And I gotta say, before we get into this, a little warning. We're going to talk no spoilers first, okay, for a few minutes. Then we're going to get into heavy spoilers. So if you haven't seen this movie yet, I always do this when movies are new. So please be sure to leave when we get into spoilers. And if you don't, I'm not accepting your criticism in the comments. But leave it anyway, because it boosts engagement. Also, if you enjoyed this review, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe for more content. I appreciate you very, very much. And, you know, let's get fast. Jill and I saw Sonic 2 about probably 4 or 5 days ago. It's been a little bit of a review in the making, but like we said, we're going to do non-spoilers first and then spoilers, so we'll tell you when we get to those. Jill, you loved this, and you already had some stuff you wanted to hop into or run into, as Sonic would, in the non-spoiler section.
My favorite character in this movie was actually Tails. I thought they added him very nicely, because at the end of the last movie, you kind of see like a scene where Tails comes onto Earth, and you're like, well, what the heck's going on here? Now he's on Earth. You figure out why. He makes like really cool inventions, kind of like he does in the video games. He's adorable, first of all. Second of all, he has the cutest voice. Third of all, I just kind of think he's like a really great character. I don't know, I liked him a lot.
Well, one thing I want to say too with Tails, and with this movie in general that I didn't mention earlier, is Jill is a very new Sonic fan. And when I say very new Sonic fan, I mean Jill knew Sonic existed. Jill has seen like 4 characters from Sonic, knew of Sonic and Eggman, and knew a fox existed, and knew a red guy existed.
I also knew a pink person existed.
And that's it.
Yes.
So what I'm saying about that is, like, this is Jill's moment to shine. Like, her introduction to Sonic was the first movie, and we've been playing through some of the games together lately. Like, we played some of Mania, we've been playing some of Colors. So Jill's a new fan.
A new fan.
And loved this movie. Mm-hmm. Okay, loved the character inclusions. And I want to say, as an old fan of Sonic, I grew up watching Sonic X on TV. I didn't watch the original series. That was a little bit before me, but I did watch Sonic X on TV for a long, long time as a kid, and I grew up playing a lot of the games, especially the 3D era. So I'm a bit of an older fan who then went back and got into 2D. I think the character inclusion in this movie is just fantastic. Like, it's just outright incredible. Yes, Tails is amazing, but they did a good job with everybody. Knuckles was done very, very well. We're not going to talk about his specifics here, but I didn't know about this. No offense to Idris Elba, not that he'll ever see this. I didn't know about his voice acting capability for Knuckles, because I'm used to a lot of the older Knuckles voice actors. Mm-hmm. So the first time I heard him, I was like, I just hear Idris Elba. Like, I don't really know. I mean, that's a me problem because I watch too many movies. But after like a couple of lines, I was like, okay, this guy is Knuckles.
Yeah.
Like, he sounds fantastic, and
he did a really good job.
Everybody did a good job. I mean,
I wanted to say that I thought they did a really good job, especially with when they introduced Tails, having the relationship between him and Sonic become more of a natural thing instead of just them meeting and like then automatically being BFFs right away.
Yeah, same with Knuckles. Like,
yeah, they had to be progressive. Well, in a natural way, I mean.
Yeah, there's no character that's actually forced into the plot of the movie. That's something I worried about at the end of Sonic 1. I love Sonic 1, but I was thinking, okay, well, Sonic 1 worked kind of in the same way that the Iron Giant works or Bumblebee works, where you take that material and you are trying to make a story, but there's a lot of humanity behind it. Are they going to be able to keep that when they add in more Sonic characters, or is it just going to get outlandish and insane? And it is outlandish, obviously, but it's really no more outlandish than the first movie. Mm. This does respect the source material for Sonic in a lot of different ways, but also it just expands on it and goes completely its own way, too. Like, this is not the exact Dr. Eggman that you'd see in the Archie comics or the IDW comics or Sonic Adventure or any of those things, but
he's very much the same one from the first movie.
Yes, and he progresses more towards that classic video game Eggman.
That's true.
And I think it's really interesting to actually see that and see the natural progression of this movie Jill, did you have more to mention for non-spoilers before we start talking about specifics?
Well, I just wanted to mention that Eggman was very, very funny, and I did think that the plot for the entirety of the movie was engaging and creative enough to make sense with the first stuff without having to retcon it and keep adults engaged. Usually these kids movies don't do a very good job of that, and this was technically a kids movie, but
right.
Watching it is very much so something that anybody can get a lot of enjoyment of if you like Sonic or if you're becoming a new Sonic fan.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think to kind of sum that all up, if you liked the first movie, first off, if you haven't seen it, I don't know why you're watching this, but let's just say in some hypothetical you love me to death and you're watching this, thank you, and you haven't seen it, go watch it. And secondly, if you did like the first movie, everything that movie did well, I truly felt this movie did as good, if not slightly better. And I will say with that if there is something that you felt fell slightly flat in the first movie, because for me, I didn't mention it in our review, but I do think the Sonic mythos stuff was very minimal in the first movie. They didn't do much with any of those characters from his world or other worlds or stuff like that. It was very much just Sonic, Eggman, and the humans. Mm-hmm. That was the one thing in the last movie that I think for hardcore Sonic fans, it would be like, okay, well, where is that stuff? This movie completely addresses that.
Yeah.
It progresses, but it doesn't do it in a way where it just bombarded you with all these characters in the first movie. Like, they did groundwork, built on it, and now we're here.
Yeah, it wasn't just a let's throw everything all at once in the first scene.
I mean, we love this movie. We're going to move out of spoiler-free, so if you have not seen the movie and you wanted our endorsement, for what it's worth, go see it. We loved it. But let's talk about spoilers here. You have been warned, and I'm assuming you chaos-controlled your way out of here. That's a little Sonic reference. I really walked away with no complaints about this movie. Like, the runtime, it wasn't too long, it wasn't too short. They brought back characters in ways that made sense. Like, for example, Eggman, he starts where we saw him at the end of the last movie, and the way that he makes his way back, first off, it makes sense, and secondly, it's not just blind luck.
It's also really funny.
It is really funny, and one thing that I like about it is it shows how intelligent he is.
Yes.
Because Eggman was still building all these contraptions and stuff out of just the mushrooms and plants and things like that.
Yeah, and leftover parts from his old ship.
Right, he was just using the stuff that he had available to him, and because he's a genius, he was still able to find a way to get out of there. And I thought that was really well done, because, like, yes, Jim Carrey being an egomaniac Eggman who's, like, funny is good, but I think that one thing they really needed to do was focus on how intelligent this character is. We saw some of it in the first movie, but to kind of see him become more unhinged and more focused on, like, that goal of, like, I've got to kill Sonic the Hedgehog type thing, it really worked. I thought it really turned him into a really good villain.
It did, and it definitely showed a lot of his motivations pretty well, because at the end of the day, he's just crazy.
Right.
First of all, and he's very intelligent, but he's also just crazy. So there's a lot of stuff that they could do there that just worked. I really enjoy the parts where he actually reunites with, was his name just Mr. Stone?
Yeah, Agent Stone or Mr. Stone. Yeah, like Mr. Stone, by the way, in this movie, I just wish he had been in it slightly more, because he was really funny.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect that character to come back.
I didn't expect him to come back either, and I didn't expect him to come back to be as funny.
Yeah. I didn't either, because he's just kind of his own thing, It's kind of one of those things that, unless I missed it in some random movie or cartoon or something, because there is a lot of different versions of Sonic, he's just kind of one of those things that I think is mainly a first movie creation. There's a lot of things that they based things off of, like Sonic having friendships with humans or having a human family, those kind of things. They have a lot of source material to that in Sonic X or in different things in the past, but there are a lot of things they created for this. And one thing I think was really cool that you wanted to mention was kind of the bonding experiences between Tails and Sonic, because a big issue, not to derail the conversation, but a huge issue you and I both have with Venom, that we like that movie, and we think it's just kind of like a dumb fun movie in a lot of ways. I remember a huge issue we had is, like, Eddie Brock goes from being, like, enemies with the symbiote to friends with him in, like, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And we always kind of hate when characters jump ahead in their progression. I really thought Sonic and Tails was, like, a very natural thing.
Well, one of my favorite parts in the movie was, at first they were very unsure of each other, and Sonic even goes far enough to say, like, I don't even really know who you are. I don't trust you. And long story short, I mean, if you're in the spoiler section, you watch the movie, you see that they end up in, I think, Siberia, in a kind of a lodge, and they kind of mess up and have to do a dance battle. And the dance battle, first of all, was really cool. It was great. It was so funny, and I loved it. And everything about the choreography was fantastic, and I loved that, like, Tails and Sonic brought in, like, American music to this place and then did American dance moves, and everyone was like, woo! Woo!
Yeah, everyone was surprised.
And then after that, there's this scene where Tails and Sonic are talking about that, and Tails kind of reaches out to Sonic and is like, are we best friends now? He didn't say it exactly like that, but they kind of talk about how they want to be friends, and Sonic pretty much says, like, yeah, you're like my family.
Yeah, so it's interesting because that was very much like a in line with source material stuff, because in like Sonic X, and it's kind of the same in a lot of the old games, Tails was like a younger kid who was bullied, and Sonic was essentially his hero, like, who saved him. And Sonic basically was like, hey man, stick with me, I'll protect you. And that was kind of their friendship, was they met that way, and then they had kind of been friends ever since then.
And it's a very similar thing in this movie.
It is a very similar thing in this movie, but it's also totally different, because I think that's interesting how, like, Tails is not even from the same planet as Sonic in something like this. So it's like they still are able to make it work in this continuity, but not disrespect the source material.
They mentioned he had been watching Sonic the entire time for the entirety of the first movie and admired him. Like, he was watching him through his technology and stuff that he created because of the big spark that he made with the baseball field. You guys remember from the first movie. And then when he realized that there was the whole thing going on with the plot, that Sonic was kind of in trouble, he just had to go and save Sonic, even though he didn't know this guy. He felt like he was friends with him. And I just thought it was so sweet. I don't know. I just thought he was the sweetest, smartest little guy.
One thing I wanted to talk about with this, too, was Knuckles.
And him being kind of a villain.
Yeah, he's kind of a villain. He's kind of not. I think that one thing that's interesting about him is that he's very much a misguided character. So in his original inclusion with Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles, Knuckles was sort of like a villain that ends up joining Sonic's side. He's more like a misguided character. And again, they keep that intact here, but they do their own thing with it.
And the reason he even joins Sonic's side in this one is because Sonic is so empathetic and caring, you know, that he reaches out to him even though this guy has been trying to literally kill him. He reaches out to him and he's like, you know, you and I aren't all that different. And they talk to each other and they save each other and they become friends, and I just thought that was a very powerful moment.
It's very Avatar Last Airbender.
I thought it was
like
very cool.
Aang Zuko type stuff.
I loved the scene of them on the beach just talking about their motivations and then kind of becoming friends after that, and I loved it. I don't know. I thought that he got a very good redemption.
Yeah, he did, and by the end of the movie, he's very much like a core of the team, where it's like going forward, it was very much implied that this is not just going to be a Sonic movie, it's about Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails, which I thought was interesting. I mean, that's, you know, a lot of times in the games, especially the 3D games, that group is called Team Sonic, which essentially that is the three of them. One of them's the fastest, one of them's the strongest, and one of them's the smartest, and they all complement each other in different ways like that in order to progress the stories. And that's something I really like about this, is that I really do think, and I know I've said it a couple times, I can't think of many examples of something doing its own thing, but respecting previous source material better. You know, where like you can say, I see where this differs, but I see why it differs, makes sense, and still respects what it came from.
Well, it's really interesting that they have, I don't even know if, like, the character Shamar Moore played was in any comics or anything.
He's just kind of his own thing. Most of these humans are just kind of their own thing.
It's interesting that they have their own original characters, but they still follow the source material, but they don't make it the exact same thing that, like, the comics or the video games, where it's a new story, and it's interesting for everybody.
Yeah, but
involved.
very, very much quintessential Sonic the Hedgehog, like, as a character boiled down. It's still very much all of that. And you know, one thing you pointed out, too, with this, with Shamar Moore, I was surprised he was in here. Like, obviously, we did praise the previous cast, but someone like Shamar Moore, I knew him from Criminal Minds. I didn't even know he had kind of transitioned to doing some movie work.
He was my favorite character in Criminal Minds.
Yeah, he's one of mine, Morgan. And I think my favorite was still... It's still a tie between Hodge and Reed. But Morgan, I was going to call him Mormon. Morgan's, like, just directly under them for me. But anyways, you know, it was really cool to see him in this role and see him getting more of a spotlight. And he's not just the character that he always is. He was very much soulful and emotional in the role that he played, but also comic relief and funny.
And since we are in the spoiler section, I have never seen Shamar Moore in another role that wasn't like FBI agenty. At first I thought, I've never seen him play just a normal character before.
Right.
And so the undercover thing he did really well. And then when he actually reveals that he's an FBI agent, it's like, oh my gosh.
It's kind of funny.
It was really good.
Like, you know that it's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek type. I mean, maybe not a reference to Criminal Minds or any of that stuff, but kind of like a... Yeah, this is where you know this guy from.
Yeah.
Type thing. I mean,
he did a great job.
They did a really good job with, like, references and stuff, too, in this, and poking fun and nodding at things. One thing that I'm going to show in here as well is just the reference between the poster for this game, or for this movie, and the poster/cover image for the original game. Even those are the same. Like, they took the original pose and the original characters, and they put the new characters in a similar pose.
That's awesome.
Like, everything about this movie, again, is very much not shying away from knowing it came from a video game.
Yes.
And it came from comics, and it came from all this old stuff.
And it's proud of it.
Right, and that's, you know, it's such a weird tone shift, because it very much seemed like the original design for Sonic was like we are ashamed that this was a video game. Let's make this abomination that looks totally different. Like, before he got redesigned in the original movie and he looked like just an absolute monster.
And all of these other video game movies too that we see often are like pretending like they're not a part of a huge video game franchise.
Yeah, they're trying to be like really serious and really like full of themselves, like very much like pretentiously like, well, we're art. And it's like, look, I think games definitely can be art, but I don't think when you go into it with the attitude of like, that's just a stupid game, let's make a movie and make it good. It's like, that's what a lot of video game movies seem like they're trying to do. But this never comes off that way.
Yeah, but this movie was like, well, this is just a stupid game, so we're gonna make just a stupid movie.
Right, it's like
but
really
like a fun way.
Yeah, it's really fun, and it never feels dumb, but like obviously it's not realistic. It's a talking blue hedgehog who runs at like the speed of sound.
And it takes itself seriously enough for the plot. Like it doesn't act like the entire thing's just a joke.
Right.
Even though there are jokes.
Right. Yeah, I thought that they did a really good job with that, and I really love it. I think there were a couple other things I wanted to mention with the lore, but I'm going to keep it brief. Like, things like the way they handled the Master Emerald and the Chaos Emeralds, and the moment where you finally see Super Sonic is just unreal. It's awesome. Like, that's something...
And he turns golden.
Yeah, that's something that I love from, like, the old Sonic Adventure games, and the, you know, the very old, like, Sonic 2, I believe, where it first was introduced. And stuff like that. It was really neat to actually see that show up here and be done well. And, you know, Jill, you wanted to kind of close off thoughts about, you know, you were going to talk about the family aspect at the end, and then I had one more thing to say.
Well, I just wanted to mention that, I know this might sound a little weird, but I really liked that they kind of showed how Donut Lord and Pretzel Lady, as I like to lovingly call them, kind of adopted these this one hedgehog, fox, and echidna, but three hedgehog-like characters, if you will.
Right.
And they're all just like cute little brothers at the end, and they play baseball together, and it really struck home for me because towards the beginning of the movie, Donut Lord says to his wife, you know, I really wish Sonic could have friends and like have a squad like the character Shamar Moore is playing. And then at the end he does get that, and he actually gets to play baseball with these people like he dreamt about doing in the first movie. And
the very end made me cry.
It made everything very full circle, and it was very much so a like Batman Alfred moment where they're like, you really are my dad.
That's the point at which I actually did shed one soulful manly tear and, you know, that rolled down my cheek. Like, it was very... This movie, like, I know that we say, like, it's silly or it's, like, kind of dumb in its own way. When we say that, we don't mean it in, like, a negative way. What we mean is that it's not up its own butt. You know, like, it's not pretentious. It doesn't think that it's, like, the next Godfather. It's not trying to be that. It's trying to be a emotionally filled but fun movie that does a lot of joking, does a lot of fun, but also it does have themes.
Yeah, and it teaches really good lessons to kids, in my opinion. It teaches lessons about forgiveness and about trying to be a hero, but not getting yourself killed, obviously, because they talk about what it's like to be a true hero in that, kind of like how Hercules has that theme. And they talk about family a lot of times in that movie, like with themes of that.
Yeah.
And I just think that there was really good things, especially for children to learn, because a lot of times movies that come out now that are meant to be for kids don't really teach anything important to me.
This came off very classic Disney to me, actually.
Yes.
Like, I know it's not, and it's much more violent than a lot of those, but what I mean by that is, like, yes, it is a movie for entertainment and for fun, but it has things to say that are worth listening to as well, if you are smart enough to engage with them. And I don't mean that in a douchey way. What I mean is, like, your 4-year-old would enjoy this movie, but you taking your 4-year-old to this movie would get even more out of it than that 4-year-old would. There was no scene where I was like, ugh, this is directed at 6-year-olds. Get me out of here. Like, I remember having to pee in the middle of the movie, and I was like, I don't want to miss this scene of dialogue.
Exactly.
It was a scene of dialogue between Sonic and Tails, so I'm like sitting here like, I don't want to miss this Sonic Tails dialogue, but I'm going to wet my pants. And I'm like a 27-year-old man. So like what I'm saying, I know I can be childish, but what I'm saying is this really works for everybody, in my opinion.
Yeah, we had to take turns going to the bathroom and fill each other in on what happened.
Yeah, it was kind of bad.
It is like a 2-hour movie. It is a little bit long.
I don't know what happened to our bladders that day,
well,
because 2 hours is not long.
I drank a lot of Coke. But, I mean, for like somebody who is a child, I think your kid's probably definitely gonna have to go to the bathroom during it. I mean, there was one little boy that I saw who looked very upset that he had to go to the bathroom, and he was like running really fast so he could come back like he was Sonic.
I was glad he didn't bail on the stairs like you did last time we went to a movie, where Jill just completely ate dirt on the stairs of the theater. Shadow the Hedgehog. I am so excited for this. Now, I know that he's kind of become like this edgelord meme character a lot of times. This is actually one of my favorite characters in Sonic canon or lore. I think that he's very, very, like, a good dark reflection of Sonic, because, like, he doesn't really have a lot to do with Sonic and who he is, but what he is like an example of Sonic's abilities, but with, like, that different upbringing. What's interesting about Shadow is he's not just the opposite of Sonic. He does have opposite things, but in his original lore, he went through that tragedy on the Ark with Maria and all this other stuff. I don't want to get too specific here, but there was a lot of like really deep emotional tragedy in that character's past. This is incredibly dark for a child accessible media thing. Like, it's literally about a dude whose only exposure to humans is having watched his best friend, who was basically his sister, be murdered by them. And then he's basically brought back to life or woken up 50 years later. But it's going to be interesting to see this because they did already tie it to Gerald Robotnik. I'm not sure if they'll call him that in 3, but the grandfather of Eggman, they did directly reference that Robotnik's name was tied in the files to Shadow, which is directly from like that Sonic Adventure 2 or Sonic X type storyline and the comics and stuff. I'm getting way too deep in here.
Well, they mentioned it was also 50 years ago, too. So
right.
That's kind of how you can imply it was probably a grandpa.
And so with that, plus with how they did this, I'm so excited to see the sequel, because I know that no matter what they do, like even if the Ark is not some satellite like it was originally, maybe it's a thing on Earth, or maybe Shadow has a slightly different origin, I know that they'll be respectful of that material.
Well, I know from the track record of these movies, too, even if they don't show anything super dark, it will still be very impactful, whatever his story is.
And when they did
and it'll teach a good lesson.
And when they did it in the game and in Sonic X, they did find a way to show it without showing it. So I think they very easily could do the same thing with the rating of this, since the rating of that game and movie was equatable to this. Anyways, I have faith in it. I'm really excited. The only concern I have is I really do hope Jim Carrey comes back. He had the comments about possibly retiring, but the producers of Sonic recently said that they think that he likes the character enough that he'd come back at least for one more movie. So I hope that's true. I
really loved his performance, and as a final closing thought, my favorite Robotnik scene is when he's finally off of the mushroom planet, and he was complaining that entire time on the mushroom planet how much he hates mushrooms, by the way. And then he finally gets off it, and he has
his cappuccino?
Yeah, he has Mr. Stone make him a special cappuccino. He drinks it, and he's like, needs mushrooms.
Yeah, because he's changed a little bit. Yeah, I thought they did like such a good job balancing the seriousness with the comedy. And overall, we loved this movie. I really can't recommend it enough. It's so good. I think this might be my favorite video game movie ever made when I'm thinking about it. Yeah. Before I think the first Sonic was, this tops it for me. But anyways, let us know what you think in the comments down below. Did you see this movie? What are your thoughts on it? Did you love it? Did you not love it? If you didn't love it, get out. I'm just kidding, but we loved it. Please like and subscribe for more content. Jill, did you have anything to add here?
Well, if you didn't love it, I'm very sorry to tell you you're diagnosed with bad taste disease.
We have a few friends like that, so you can join them. No, but like, I just was so happy with it. It's one of those movies where it's serious, but you still leave with a smile on your face, and you feel like your time was respected. That's something I really look for in movies. And
I loved that it was a movie where you don't even really have to know much about Sonic to start watching that first movie and then this movie and enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a gateway drug.
Yeah, it's...
Now you're a Sonic fan.
It's a really good way to get people into loving Sonic. And that's what happened to me, so...
Yeah, it worked. It did its magic. Overall, I absolutely love this movie. I'm holding the steelbook from the first one because I gotta say that everybody did such a good job. And I loved the first movie, but the second movie, honestly, blew it out of the water. I mean, the themes of friendship and all that stuff are still great. One thing I'm always worried about going in to watch a more general audience's movie is that it's going to be too childish or something like that. They did like a perfect blend of adult mixed with, I guess, for everyone humor. Pretty much it can be enjoyed by anybody, and surprise inclusions of people like Shamar Moore from Criminal Minds, you might know him. That was awesome to see. Ben Schwartz did good again. Pretty much everybody just killed it. Jim Carrey, as always. I'm still worried about his retirement. But anyways, if you can't tell, I absolutely loved Sonic the Hedgehog. Idris Elba killed it. I loved this movie. So I'm very, very, very excited to see Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and whatever else they want to do. I know that they've talked about doing some sort of expanded type universe with this and actually really getting into that comics type and video game lore that Sonic has had in the past with his character. So all that stuff is super exciting to me, and I can't wait to see who they introduce next. So excited for the second Steelbook. I'm going to be getting my Sonic collection going like the Fast and the Furious, and I will not be happy if I don't see a post-credits sequence at the end of the final Fast and Furious movie where Sonic pulls up alongside Brian O'Connor's car at this point. Like, I'm asking for it. Imagine this. I just got to say it. You got Brian O'Connor pull up, you've got Optimus Prime's truck pull up, and then you have skids to a halt Sonic right there. Chef's kiss. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Did you like this movie? Did you not? What are your thoughts on it? You better like the movie or you're excommunicated from the cult of J. Gone. Goodbye. Get out of here. And a couple more things. We have a beautiful, wonderful, fantastic run by a great woman. It's Woman Appreciation Day every day, especially at my house, from me personally. But Jill, my wonderful wife, has opened an Etsy store. That is Enchanted Glamor. This is somewhere where you can help support the channel, support the other stuff that we are working on. We appreciate you very, very much for checking it out. It is for all ages, all genders, all ethnicities, all walks of life. Everyone's welcome. Fun products for everyone. And a new Discord server is finally up. So if you want to get fast like Sonic, you speed your way on over there, get your tuchus in that server, and join up. The link is in the description down below. Please like and subscribe. Have a fantastic day. As always, everyone, stay shway.